इंडिया में लॉकडाउन लग गया है। ये कोरोना नाम की बीमारी चालू हो गई है। 21 डेज तक धंधा पानी सब बंद।
Hi, this is Sana Farzeen and you're watching IndianExpress.com, and I have with me the team of India Lockdown here to talk about the film. Firstly, I think you guys been knowing that when it started trending, India Lockdown, people actually got scared on Twitter.
Yeah. India lockdown, exactly.
Oh my
God. It went for 2 days. It was trending. A lot of people, "Ye kya ho raha hai?" And there were so many memes and so many other things were made, and it
For
was.
a moment, my heart also skipped a beat. Yeah.
I have a strong feeling this was Madhur sir's strategy.
Yeah. Marketing guru,
Yeah.
Yeah, but tell me, Madhur, how and when did you decide that you wanted to tell a story about the lockdown?
This was the first lockdown when we all gone to it, and we all confined in our houses. And that time I was like, we were watching movies, interacting on Zoom with friends, relatives, friends, everybody. And that time I said, why not to document what happened during the whole pandemic, the first lockdown I'm talking about. And the film tenure is also the first 15 or 20 days, I would say. What happened during those periods. It was a very dangerous and very, pathetic time for everybody, I mean to say. And I thought, why not make a film? And that time my writers, Amit Joshi and Aradhna, I said, yaar, ye lockdown pe film banate, because I have jotted some ideas which I already have. And then there were so many different subjects, personalities which we had. But then we zeroed down to the sex workers in Kamatipura, migrant workers who were traveling. Yeah. That was a very stunning visual. I mean to say that it was so heart-wrenching. We're watching those kind of visuals, how they were traveling, And aerosters, again, I was inspired by somebody I know, how they were, Pilot, how, she was confided in the house, and an old man, he wants to go to Hyderabad, so these are the things which have taken from the real life, and obviously we have tweaked it, and we have add fiction to it, and then this was a zero down, we did it, the four stories will be going on, two different characters, and the same time zone they are there, and how it is merges also in the film later on.
But tell me, do you think people would be like a little apprehensive to relive the lockdown experience through this film?
See, the film is a reminder of a time where the world stood still and all of us sort of came together. As you see, even in the film, there are 4 parallel stories that sort of merge together, just like it's a global theme.
Yeah.
It's a subject that is so, it would stand relevant with generations. And I think that's the thing about cinema, it's an art form. And like any art form, whether it's a painting or a poetry, you sort of document the time that you've lived in. Yeah. It's a documentation of a time that we've lived in. A lot of kids, like Madhur sir said in a previous interview, who are 3-4 years old, or they're just born, or even if they're 10 years old, or anybody, would want to, it's a reminder for many years later, 10, 20, 50 years later, you want to watch something, you want to see what happened during the pandemic. And it's not a particular, part of the society. It's so
global.
It's so global. Even the characters are just various characters. There's migrants. She's a pilot. There's a father. I'm playing a sex worker, and the lives around it. So it's not. It's very versatile. The characters are really versatile.
Yeah. Prateik, you tell me, of course, as Madhur rightly mentioned, that image of the migrant workers moving across or just pushed around like herd of cattle. It's a reminder for everyone. For you, because we all come from a privileged background, of course, getting the look is easy, but to get into the skin of it, to feel their pain, tell us about that experience.
It was a very beautiful process, and I met some migrant workers and spoke to them, and was very keenly observing their body language, the way they spoke, their hardships, and so I was very keenly observing. Sir gave me some reference films to watch. I watched a few of my mother's films, in fact, because she portrayed such characters in her time. It's been a very emotional journey for me, because I, through Sir, I got to pay homage in my own little way
Yeah.
to my mother and the work she did, and her body of work. You know, that was one of the. I was absolutely 100% all in. Once Sir mentioned, listen, तेरी माँ ने ऐसे character किरदार निभाए. ये वैसे ही है. ये this is your
This is a
chance.
tribute. It's a
This is a
tribute.
tribute.
Wow.
It's your opportunity to pay homage. I'm like, sir, I'm in. बताओ कब
Yeah.
शुरू करें?
Shweta, most people lost job, a lot of people lost job, but as your character rightly mentions in the trailer, that a sex worker wouldn't have a job. While you were playing it, of course, the pandemic, the lockdown has had a social awakening for all of us. What has been your experience and what did it like touch you somewhere?
I said this earlier as well, that as much as we were aware during the pandemic and we were reading about the migrants and we were reading about people, we didn't really have much to complain about. You know, we have roof over our head and we have food. We are posting what are we eating on Instagram and aaj my maid is not at home. Aur acha dekho aaj maine kya banaya. Things like that, you know. But there were a lot of people who've lost jobs. There are a lot of kids who had to actually do online schooling, which was the worst. I feel, you know, they couldn't go out and play. But a community, the commercial sex workers, their community was very little highlighted. And I thought that really hit the chord for me, because if I'm able to represent them, that entire community and what they went through, because it's directly, I mean, there's social distancing, you can't, like, you know, Mehrunisa, my character says, even the teaser, that aadmi ko chhu nahi sakta, how am I supposed to do business now? So it came to survival.
Yeah.
You know, you really, like, what do you eat now? What do you do now? And there's, you know, even if you try, you're going to be exploited.
Yeah.
So I think that was really my chance to sort of give voice to a community that was so suppressed and not really highlighted. It was a great journey. I think every character is very unique. I like experimenting with my characters and I like playing different people all the time. I think that's the beauty of being an actor, that you get to relive so many lives in one lifetime. As an actor, yes, we had to dig deeper, and Madhur sir and the entire team, all of us went to Kamatipura. There was the cinematographer Keiko and art directors, all of us were there, and I interacted with a couple of sex workers there. They were a little shy at the beginning, and then I said, Madhur sir, you know what, let me just have a one-on-one woman-to-woman chat, and then they told me a lot of things that of course I cannot speak about right now, but just to see the way they sat and the way they spoke. In fact, बहुत सारे ऐसे body languages and mannerisms and lingo मैंने उठाया है that I've used in the film that really help.
Wow.
They live in this one room where there are so many, the beds are just around and together, and there's one bathroom that has a strong smell of talcum powder, a cheap soap and detergent.
Right.
So in fact, during the entire shoot, I used only talcum powder and not used perfume.
Wow.
I did not, because you know, you wear your expensive perfume and you go on set and it cuts you off. So I really didn't want to do that. In fact, I was applying chameli oil. So just to be in that, it makes a huge difference. I was, you know, and my language was that. In fact, I was telling Inder, I was like, hey, idhar aap pani de. So, usually I'm like, Inder bhaiya, pani laiye, green tea kidhar hai? I'm like, hey, idhar aa. So, you know, it's like a wacko. But it's fun. It was so much fun. And it's my own way of paying a tribute to these wonderful, wonderful ladies who do the best that they can to survive.
Ahana, you tell me, your character kind of represents every one of us who were firstly excited that work from home hai, chutti mil gayi hai, and before reality struck. So tell us about that experience, and because all of these have an emotional journey, how did you make sure that your character also has an emotional connect, also kind of touches the chord with the audience?
So I played Moon, and you know, when he came to me, he was like, I don't want to see Ahana Kumra, and I was like, wow, like, thanks, you know, for making it sound as though you see me in everything. He like, no, you do so much work. I just want to like completely break away from, you know, everything that I see you on screen playing. So I said, okay, let me see. And I think we had like we had a whole day of a look test, and then everybody's scratching their brains and like, you know, everybody's scratching their head, and there are so many. I told him, I said, okay, we'll try different wigs. So we had like some 7-8 wigs, you know, and we're trying, so, you know, like alag styles, ye wo, and I'm just like, you know what, let me not like get so much like dig deep so much into my vanity. Let me just like, let me have my own hair. and I'll curl it, and then he's like, chashma laga le. I said, okay. And then I was like, pilots chashma lagate hain kya? I remember this conversation that we had to call up a pilot who was a friend of his, and then we connected with her. We spoke to her for really long, and then, you know, she was like, yeah, and I was like, okay, theek hai, chashma hai. It's a very different space for me to, you know, play a character who's alone. And I had to get inspired or, you know, take inspiration from so many people whose stories I had heard. And at times when, you know, when I have traveled alone, lived in a room alone, when, you know, when you can't go out, who is your friend?
Yeah.
So, you know, बाजू वाली balcony से आप इससे बात कर लें, नीचे कोई मतलब रहता हो neighbor तो आप उसको cake भिजवा दें. So, I think the character deals with loneliness, and I think across the globe, a lot of people have felt lonely during the lockdown, lived alone, and managed chores. And I think being lonely is a very different,
coping with that
completely. And I had no idea how you cope with it. So I feel like through this script, or through this narrative, I managed to, you know, play a part that I would have otherwise never been able to feel.